Hello everyone, my name is Amanda and welcome back to another video of the Planting Andy. Alright, so today we're going to talk about pots. Not the one that you smoke, but the one that you put your plants in. So we're talking about planters today. And there's a lot of different opinions or perspective or debate even when it comes to what kind of pot is best for your Hoyas. So I think it'll be fun today to just share what I do with you guys in terms of what kind of planters I pick for my Hoyas, and also why do I do that. And in returns, you guys can share like your thoughts with me, so that way we all can learn and grow together. Right? Let's get started. Okay, so today we're going to focus on three main types of pots. So number one is the terracotta pots, and number two is the nursery pot, and last but not least is our ceramic pot. So I know there's plenty other, planters that people use to grow their Hoyas, right? For example, there's people who grow Hoyas in their garden outside. There are people who use net pot and a vetiver to grow their Hoyas in Necker. But for simplicity's sake, today we're just going to focus on the three main types of pots that I talked about earlier, because I believe that's what most of us as an indoor Hoya grower use. So yeah, so we'll talk about those. So before we get into the planters, let's talk about Hoyas itself. So now Hoya is a very big genus. There's so many different types and species of Hoyas out there. Most of them are epiphytic, so meaning that they climb on trees and they grow on bark and stuff like that. So they're not used to having water like all the time. And that's why you always hear that the number one reason that Hoyas died, it's because of overwatering. Because overwatering cause root rot, and the Hoya just kind of go downhill from there. But also there are some more terrestrial species of Hoya, so meaning that those Hoya actually grow on ground in the soil. So for example, multiflora is one of them. Opticifolia, imperialis. So those Hoyas have more like a bush-like structure, and yeah, they do grow in soil. So now they still don't like a crazy amount of water around their root system, because they're still Hoyas. But in comparison to the epiphytic type, the terrestrial type can tolerate a little bit more moisture. So I just want to throw it out there before we go into planters, because it's also really important to look at the particular species of Hoya that you want to plant in whatever type of planter you want to put in. So when comparing the planters, I'm going to go over three different categories. So number one is the price, if it's expensive or not, affordable or not. Second is the convenience, like weight-wise, it is easy to get them. And last but not least, and also the most important factor, is like what kind of goods and not so goods that's going to do to your plants. Okay, so the first one we're going to talk about is the good old terracotta pot. So terracotta pot is probably one of the most common pot that houseplant hobbyists use, and they are not expensive at all. I would say like they're a couple dollars. Like for example, for this 4-inch size. Obviously, if you're going to go bigger, it's going to be more expensive. And also, you can probably find them like anywhere, like in any kind of nursery. Plus, they're not too heavy actually. Like, they're pretty easy to carry around. Like, let's say you water the plant, it's not gonna be like impossible for you to carry. And I do actually like terracotta pot a lot because of its porous nature. So meaning that the pot actually have like tiny pores on the surface, meaning that it's gonna let the water evaporate a lot faster. So this is a really great benefits for Hoyas, just because, like we discussed earlier, Hoyas doesn't like to, they don't like to be trapped in a lot of water, because that's gonna cause root rot and the Hoya just gonna die. So the terracotta pot actually gave you a safety net on, let's say you overwater, like you water too much and your soil is not so well draining. The terracotta pot actually will help you to get this water out of the soil faster, than other other planters, right? And one of the complaints, or not complaints, but one of the problems that I heard sometimes about terracotta pot is like the roots actually like when they grow out in the pot, it's actually stick to the plot. And when people are trying to repot them, they're trying to like get the plants out, they may rip off some of the roots. Now that is true because it's happened to me before. However, it's not too big of a problem in my opinion, just because number one, when you're trying to take the plants out or report the plants, you're not going to just yank it out, right? So you're going to be like a little bit more careful, to take it out. And yes, in the process, if the root does attach to the pot, you may break a little bit of roots, but roots are really resilient and smart. So as long as you don't rip the whole root system off, it will grow back in no time. So yeah, so so this is a terracotta pot. And the other thing that I heard about terracotta pot is because like, oh, it's so boring. It's just like, the same over and over again. And this is not true, because with some digging, you can actually find some pretty nice and beautiful terracotta pot. So for example, I got like this one. I know it's look really rustic, but this is like what it's supposed to look like, just have that like old nookie on it. But yeah, so I really like it. I find it in one of the nursery in Oakland, California, which is like maybe 30 minutes away from where I live at. So yeah, I really like this like kind of like rustic or old look on it. And I also got this one. So I think this is like a brand called Birds, B-E-R-G-S, Birds. And they make fancy terracotta pot. Like, look at how beautiful this is. And they're still terracotta, like meaning that they're still porous. They will let the water out, right? And it has drainage hole on it, obviously. And they named their pots. So for example, this one, it's number 12. I think it's just the style number. This one is number 12 and it's named Elizabeth. I also have a Julia, but it's somewhere right now. And then you can see it's made in Italy. So it's pretty fancy. So yeah, I just want to throw it out there because for those of you who think that terracotta pot, it's like always look like that. It's not. Like you can actually find some pretty good looking, ones, if you do a little bit digging. So yeah, so that will be for the terracotta pots. All right, so the second type of pot we want to talk about is the nursery pot. So obviously, the number one benefit is it's free, right? Because it's come with the Hoyas. And it's always going to have drainage holes on it just because it's come from the growers. And in order for the growers to grow the plant successfully, they need drainage hole for the water to come out, right? And also the other benefit is it's really lightweight. So like, if you water it, it's probably not going to kill you to have to like carry around in the house, right? When it's come to the plants, come to the Hoya itself, because most of the nursery pot are made out of plastic, so that means that it's gonna hold on to moisture a lot more than the terracotta pot. So this will be something that you need to consider when you want to plant your Hoyas in a plastic pot or leave your Hoyas in a plastic pot, in the nursery pot. You may want to consider like watering it less, or like make sure that you double check or triple check like the soil is like dry out before you actually water the plants. So I do have some of my Hoyas in nursery pots for multiple reasons. So number one reason is because I'm lazy. So I don't want to report it when I get it from home. But the second reason is, in all seriousness, is because I don't want to disturb the plants. So what I do is when I get a Hoyas home, like in a nursery pot, I would check the soil mix to make sure that it's not too peaty, like it's not too like dense. As long as the soil mixture seems reasonable to me, I kind of just leave the Hoyas in there for a while. Because I don't want to disturb the plants. Like think about it, right? Like you get the plants from the plant shops to your home, and it's completely different environment. So the plants endure that stress of like they have to get used to your environment. And don't forget that before it gets to the plant shop, it's actually come from the growers. And that's another level of traveling stress that the plants have to endure. So when you get the plants home, like the plants already, have so much traveling on its shoulders that you may want to just leave the plant in its original growing environment, and just let it rest. And that's, actually the major reason that I, some of my Hoyas, a lot of my Hoyas still in this nursery pot. So that's that. Last but not least, and the most fun and the most that have the most varieties is the ceramic pots. So I have a couple here. So for example, I have this one, which is a glazed ceramic pot, which have drainage hole on it. So you can see it's glazed because, you can see it's reflective, right? And you also would have like something like this, right? Which is not glazed. It's glazed in the inside, but not glazed on the outside. And also it doesn't have any drainage hole on it, right? So yeah, so as you can see, like there is like many different types of ceramic pot. And of course, the bigger benefit is it's pretty. It looks good. And then you can probably find like many different kind of shape. Like this one is a different shape, right? Many different kind of shape, many different kind of like color and texture to match your house. So that's a really fun thing to do, right? However, like I mentioned earlier, right? Some of them have drainage hole and some of them don't. So if you find one that have drainage hole on it, right? Like you can just put your Hoyas strictly in here and the water will drain out, right? However, if you got one of this that have no drainage hole, you may have to do a second level of work, which is get a nursery pot with drainage hole, and then you're gonna put it in there. And when you water, you may have to take the Hoyas out, and then just let it water and let it dry out, and then put it back. So just a little bit more work, because you definitely do not want to plant your Hoyas in something with no drainage. I guarantee that it's gonna kill your Hoyas. So yeah, so that would be the other level of challenge that ceramic pot is. And also when it's come to the Hoyas itself, because a lot of the ceramic pots is glazed. So when it's glazed, it means that it's not porous anymore, right? And it means that just like the plastic pot, it's gonna trap the moisture in a lot longer than, for example, the terracotta pot, which is porous. So you may want to, if you really want to use a ceramic pot for your Hoyas, you just have to really watch out for your soil moisture level, and also like your watering schedule. Otherwise, you may be, taking a risk of, again, wood rotting your Hoyas, which is really hard to recover from. And I also want to mention that this is on average more expensive than terracotta pot or, of course, nursery pot. So I have some ceramic pot that it's like $50-$60, which is like insanely expensive. And I only get it because it's like handmade from a local artist, and I do support local arts. So yeah, so price may be another thing that you have to consider. And also they are heavy. Like this guy is the same size, about like 4-inch. Then remember the terracotta pot I showed you earlier? But this guy, it's a lot heavier than this, I can tell you that, because I'm holding them right now. So yeah, if you're gonna have to plant like a bigger Hoyas, like you have a bigger ceramic pot, you may have to consider that, if you have to like move it around the house and stuff like that, that may be challenging. So those are the stuff that you want to consider if you want to use a glazed ceramic pot. All right, so those are the objective reviews I have, for all three types of like most common planters in the market that you can choose from your Hoyas. And like I mentioned like earlier, the one that I use the most is terracotta pot, because of all its benefits, and it really only have like minimal like disadvantages. Like I said, the root sting that stick to the pot, which like I said, as long as you like take the plants out slowly, and even if you rip up a couple of roots, it will be fine. And it's also cheap. And also I do have a number of my Hoyas in the nursery pot, and like I mentioned, I just don't want to disturb the root system or just to give the plants a little bit of time to like get used to my environment before I, you know, have to repot it. So yeah, so those are the two main types of pots that I use in my home for my Hoyas. I do have, like you can see, I do have a number of glazed ceramic pot, but even when I use a glazed ceramic pot, I normally would have a nursery pot in it just so I can like take it out and water it like, you know, easier, instead of having like to move like a whole larger, if I have a larger one, the whole ceramic pot, you know, into the shower so I can water my larger Hoyas. But yeah, so that's all I have for you today. I hope that is a little bit helpful. And like I said, one thing that is really, really highly related to the pot itself is the soil mix, which I will do another video really soon. But yeah, so let me know in the comment below like which kind of pots like you use the most, why you're using them, why do you like it, or why do you hate the other types of pots. I would love to hear from you guys. If you like this video, you find this helpful, make sure you give me a like. So it's really helped me to understand you know, what kind of video I should make for you. I really appreciate all the comments that you leave for me and ask me the questions. I learn a lot from that, and you know, I really enjoying interacting with you guys. And if you want more future video, make sure you click subscribe. It's really going to help me to build a channel so I can serve you better. And as always, I will see you next time. Bye.